Hello Victoria, my name's Jessica Davis and fortunately a terminated paramedic and a terminated nurse just like thousands of other workers in the state. I'd like to introduce a new e-petition to the Parliament of Victoria called Review the Vaccine Mandate Imposed on All Workers. What is an e-petition? An e-petition is an opportunity for citizens to have a voice. It is a call for action. We need the Legislative Council and the decision makers to review the current vaccine mandates, the strict measures that are in place to date, taking into consideration that the state of emergency is declared over. We have high vaccination rates, we have high immunity, and we have healthcare workers that are burning out. So taking into consideration all factors, we need the decision makers to review the current situation. And essentially what we're asking for is for the COVID-19 vaccines and also the flu vaccine directions to cease immediately, and also issue a state directive to all the employers to reinstate the employees that were terminated because of the COVID vaccine mandates. How do we get this done? We need 10,000 signatures for a parliamentary debate. So let's go to www.aw4a.com.au, sign, share across the state, and let's get this job done.
Did you know they plan to build over 3,000 wind turbines on Queensland's Great Dividing Range? Over 3,700 kilometres of new haulage roads will carve through old growth forest. Destroying forests for industrial renewables makes no sense. It doesn't have to be this way. The intact biodiverse ranges of Queensland are no place for renewables. Take 2 minutes to learn the truth about the destruction they cause. Go to rainforestreserves.org.au.
Our message is very, very simple. We want to educate the kids, not indoctrinate them.
Period. End of story. I'm sick of hearing this sort of nonsense from these people.
She doesn't want these projects in her backyard, in Warringah. She wants them in yours.
Ridiculous. You know? Shame on you people. You know? You've been here for 10 seconds and you think you're going to run the joint.
And I still find it offensive because they still keep on talking about how Australia's got this racist underbelly. No, we don't.
We should be energy independent here in Australia. We've got everything.
My confidence in Australians has just been restored.
Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Commanding the Narrative. My name is Stephen Tripp. Thank you everyone who are watching live on Facebook, Rumble and YouTube. Remember, you can comment live and contribute to the conversation. And at some point today, I'll put the link in the description. You can call in and have your say. Just click the link, the StreamYard link. You can use your phone, you can use your laptop, and we'd love to hear from you. Back in the Richard's Palace with Mr. Sam Buono and Richard Storch. Sam, how are you going today?
Hello, Stephen. Another wet Saturday afternoon in Sydney town.
Yeah.
Yes, it is very, very wet.
Good afternoon to both.
How are you, Richard?
Well, very well. Looking
forward to today. That's good. That's good. We've got a lot to talk about and discuss, but before we get there, I should let everyone know, as I always do every single week, about Buy Me a Coffee. If you want to support us here at Commanding the Narrative, you can head to Buy Me a Coffee and throw us a few dollars. It helps to pay for the stream and also gives me a very warm and fuzzy feeling inside, which is very nice. And I don't get that too often. So thank you, anyone that wants to contribute there. Buy Me a Coffee. Also, if you want to support us, you can also head to our T-shirt shop and get the nice Sam Buono T-shirt that Sam's wearing there. or a whole bunch of other designs as well. So that's a good way of supporting us. And also, At the moment, the Light newspaper Australia is looking for distributors, specifically in Sydney and the east coast of Australia. If you would like to become a distributor for the Light, you can call 0406 861 816, or if you're outside those areas, you can head to thelighaustralia.com and sign up to be a distributor. With misinformation and disinformation laws looming, this may be the only way soon to get information out there. Old school newspaper, hard copy form. So yeah, if you can help out in any way there with the Light, that would be tremendous and fantastic. But we don't normally do these podcasts together so soon, but there's been a lot going on. Yeah. They say a week is a long time in politics. Well, just this last week, a lot
been an eternity.
A lot has happened. So there's a few issues. First is the Matt Kean has resigned from the New South Wales Parliament, which a lot of people will be happy about, including some Liberal people, I think. There's been the New South Wales redistribution for the federal electorate. That's seen Kylea Tink gone. I know she pronounces it Kylea, but if you spell your name Kylea, I'm going to call you Kylea. She's gone. There's some polling that's come out, which that we will need to talk about. There's an article about the Teals wanting to run in 30 federal electorates, and also this big announcement by Peter Dutton on announcing nuclear energy. What do you guys want to discuss first? I'll leave it to you to. What do you think is the most pressing issue at the moment?
Well, obviously the biggest story the last 2 weeks is obviously what Peter Dutton did with the nuclear decision he's made. It's certainly opened up the. He's not going to go die wondering, isn't he? He's going to make a big bold statements and going to define the difference between the two parties at the next election.
Yeah, I think with the biggest issue that's been revealed by it is that Dutton's given Albanese the opportunity to look like a student activist, and he's taken it.
Yeah, and
Dutton's now looking like the Prime Minister.
Yeah, he's saying that. I think there was an article, I saw a piece this morning. He's basically saying he looks authoritative. And I think Australians might like authoritative people. Well, and where he's I've made this decision, whether you like it or not, and if you want to come follow me. That's leadership.
Yeah.
Where and you see some of the memes that they've done the last week. People coming out with free eye fishes or free eye koalas at the back of Lithgow and stuff like that. Well, there might be some free heads out there, but they're not free eyes.
Well, the Prime Minister referring back to children's nursery rhymes is very unedifying.
Well, I thought we were past that. And this is 20.
No, we're not past that. We've gone back to that.
That's right. I just thought. Obviously, that's the initial. It'd be interesting what Labor do the next. Obviously, there's a lot of polling probably getting done this weekend and stuff like that, and see what's going on.
Well, wouldn't they be frightened after the last 2 weeks? I mean, how many polls have we had? 5.
Yeah.
And every single one of them's been a disaster.
It's not
for Labor.
It hasn't been great for him, but obviously, both parties must think that they've got someone to either a negative campaign or a positive campaign. What they want to do in the next 6 months, 9 months.
But let's look at the numbers. The numbers uniformly solidify the race at 50-50.
There's no doubt. I think the last couple of months, I think people are starting to listen to Dutton. And I think people maybe have stopped listening to Albo. And there's an old rule in politics. Once they stop listening, mate, they don't listen. You don't listen, you get nothing. It's like talking to a brick wall.
Yeah.
And if people are starting to stop listening to Albo, that's a bit. And he's never been a charisma man, and he's not.
Well, he's not a leader. He's a commentator. He examines the problem.
Yeah.
He commentates on the problem. He sort of, massages it. He doesn't actually take any action.
There was one person called him El Mufad. Yeah. He said he's El Mufad now, and this by a person who has backed him to the hilt for the last 2 years. Now a commentator who writes in Fairfax News. Oh, the Channel 9.
This is Crow.
No, Sean Carey.
Sean Carey, yeah.
Who's been a vehement critic of Dutton and a shoulder slapper to Albo. And he said the other day, people are starting listening to him, and they're starting to listen to Dutton, and and Albo looks like Elmer Fudd
You
in the cartoon memes.
But this is the thing also, that Albo never says anything of substance.
Well, look what happened. Look what happened in Canberra today on the week when he let that Chang Lei sit there with the Chinese embassy workers, pushing her out from the Canberra.
Yeah.
He said, I spoke to her, I smiled at her. Well, after I smiled at her, and next thing, 2 days later, once the Premier had left Perth Airport, then suddenly officially a complaint went in.
But
After he signed off and kissed each other, and the next thing he's halfway to Broome, the next thing the official complaint comes in, or it's a half soft complaint from the Hanson boy.
Richard, there must be an election coming somewhere because Sam's starting to fire up. We haven't seen this in the last couple of months.
He's getting a little animated.
If the polling goes an uptick on Labor side, he will go to election. I still think the first week of December. He won't go until Queensland's up.
Well, out of respect for your view, I'm growing my campaign.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about.
Because if you're right, I'll be on the ground in October.
Yeah. I just don't know. I just don't think that when the primary votes that in the a 2 or low 3s, it needs a lot of luck, and that's where preference discipline comes in. He knows he's got 85% of the Greens, and that's all budgeted in.
Do you think that the Greens vote is slipping now?
A little bit, but they get it back come election time. You won't hear them talk now. If they think they're going to be in election first week of December, you won't hear much from the Greens. They'll do a ground game, go back to their electorates and work hard.
Well, with all the attacks on electoral officers in the last week, I've noticed that there's a distinct lack of volume from the Greens.
But once then they hide under the table when things go wrong, they hide under the table for a week or two and try and blow it over.
You're exactly right about that. They always go.
They always, and the media protectors say nothing and get on with it until the next. Wait till it all blows over until another issue comes up. Then they'll come back next week maybe and stuff like that. That's how they've always operated. That's classic. Same as the Teals. When the Teals are under attack, they run to the ABC or the Guardian, the same as what the Greens do.
Okay, so Peter Dutton has come out and revealed 7 sites for these proposed nuclear plants. Many electorates around the country, different areas. Tarong in Queensland, I'll probably pronounce these completely wrong, but that's northwest of Brisbane. Kylea, is it Kylea? In Queensland, you can see it on the map there. Liddell, Mount Piper in New South Wales. Loy Yang in Victoria, Port Augusta in South Australia, and Muja. Is it Muja?
I thought it was a Collie.
No, in Western Australia.
Yeah, Collie.
Oh, maybe they've used the. Yeah. I think Collie is near Collie.
Yeah.
Near Collie.
It's all that the coal mine, the coal fired is generally what they say is Collie is the township.
Yeah, they're basically going to connect up to the wiring of the coal-fired power station,
the infrastructure.
Yeah.
With this announcement, I want to ask you.
There's already been an objection made, which is that nuclear power plants need a lot of water, and there's no water in all these sites, so therefore they'll.
I think that's old systems.
That's right.
I mean, if you talk to Paul Vallejo, well, I probably should ask Paul Vallejo this question. Now they have walk-away safe systems. You don't need a lot of water. I mean, that's Fukushima style.
Building
Fukushima
a water pipeline is not a big deal. It's certainly not like building 27,000 kilometers of.
This is the problem, though. But a lot of people don't understand the technology. And this gets me to my next point, right? I want to ask you this question: is this announcement by Peter Dutton, is this equivalent to the fight back package that John Hewson announced before the 1993 election, or is this more like The Voice, where Dutton came out and opposed The Voice?
It's more like The Voice, yeah, because he's actually saying we need something that works.
But can't you argue that with fight back, it was a big policy and it was a big target
and a big document too.
Look,
there was a lot of good stuff in there, but it was hard to explain.
Yeah.
Now, are the Liberal and coalition, is the coalition up to the task of explaining the technology around nuclear?
An ape could sell this. An ape could sell it. It's like, well, what do you want? What do you want? Do you want renewables? We've been doing this for 15 years. Is it working? Is it cheap? Is it going to work?
Well, according to
What do
the
you
Teals,
want?
yes, it is. It's cheap. It's
Oh,
it's
yeah.
amazing. It's wonderful.
Let's get on board with them. Yeah, right. Okay, yeah, sure. I mean, as I said, an ape could sell this.
For the bottom 25-30% of the population, I read something else today through a pollster called Samaras. He says for the younger generation, they're more open to nuclear than say what the baby boomers who saw 3 Mile Island and all that sort
Well,
of
look,
stuff.
I grew up.
It's our generation that have got a problem with nuclear.
I think it's my generation too, because we grew up with The Simpsons, and that's all we've been exposed to when it comes to nuclear.
Fukushima.
No, that came that came later.
But like you,
I'm talking about when I grew up.
Yeah.
All I'm seeing is footage of these big drums of green ooze coming out of it. There's 3-eyed fish swimming in the lake nearby. There's all radiation rods all over the place. It's not like that at all.
That's right.
That in reality, there's no green ooze. There's no 3-eyed fish. Well, nothing like that.
If the ALP
you've evolved since you were watching the.
Well, my evolution came in 2022 before the federal election because I was opposed to nuclear. I saw the waste as being the biggest problem, and when I first walked into a meeting with my supporters, they said, "Well, we're pro-nuclear, so you are meant to represent us. You better get on board." So I was all right. I was like, "Okay." They sent me some information, and some of the information was from the Australian Nuclear Association. So I'm like, "Right, I'm going to call them up and just ask them." So I called up the secretary, Dr. John Harries. I had an hour-long conversation with him, and by the end of it, all my fears had been dissolved.
Yeah.
The first question I said to him, I said, "Look, I'm concerned about the waste." And he said to me, "What waste?" And I'm like, "Well, haven't you seen The Simpsons, mate?" Like,
he would have laughed at you, wouldn't he?
He said, "Uranium's in the ground. It's already radioactive. You dig it out of the ground, you enrich it, you put it in the reactor, you deplete it. At the end of it, it comes out in a ceramic form. It's enclosed, and then it's kept on site." And he kept trying to make it very. He put a lot of emphasis on the fact that it was kept on site, and I couldn't understand what he was putting so much emphasis on that for. I later realized he was putting emphasis on it because the amount of waste that's waste or byproduct or spent fuel, you might say, at the end of the whole process is so small that they can keep it on site. I mean, the nuclear byproduct is so small, and we've talked about this on other podcasts.
They I still think we need a nuclear dump, or what's it called, a nuclear
It'd just be a storage facility.
Well,
what he said you could potentially also put it back in a geological site. So it came out of the ground and you can put it back in the ground.
Yeah.
And it's no more radioactive than it already was.
I've got to say,
but the French also have technology where they're now repurposing that spent fuel and recycling it.
A technological issue, which is how do you reprocess it and turn a liability into an asset?
Well,
it's a lot easier to reprocess something than to dig it up and process.
Fair enough. That could be technology in 20 years' time. But at the same time, we're going to have nuclear subs in the next 10, 15 years. And once that runs, we've got to, even if there's a can of Coca-Cola of waste, it's got to be dumped somewhere. So we've got to have where we've got to dump it. My advice is put it next to Narrowlinga in South Australia.
Well, my advice is to make a business out of it and to take everyone's waste and store it effectively.
Exactly. And then a couple $100 billion
we've been talking about
that's what
50 years.
Bob Hawke was talking
Exactly.
about.
Yeah. That's right. He wanted a waste dump for the whole world. In South Australia, they say South Australia at the outback is the most stable ground in the world.
It is.
Well, that's probably where a lot of the uranium already is.
Well, it's next to, if we put it next to Narrowlinga, no one's used Narrowlinga for 70 years. Not going to use it for another 700 years. So you might as well put it next door to it.
We've got a comment here from Jeffrey Robertson. Thank you very much, Jeffrey, for watching. It's a shame most people's view of nuclear is so yesterday. It's moved so far since then. The best thing about nuclear is that it will make wind and solar redundant.
Exactly.
Well, I hope so.
Precisely.
I don't think those 7 sites, how much power is that going to generate?
More than we need.
don't know about that. What I've read is that it's
Well, 2 of them are going to be small modular reactors, but I wouldn't believe the stuff you read about it not producing enough power.
Well, I just think. Well, I don't know. Well, I was told it was only over 7. If there was 7 nuclears up and
but
going.
we've got so much renewable power to use during the day. I mean, when we need more, it's like
come 8
well,
o'clock.
we're really not going to have a problem here. And we've got that big battery, the Snowy 2.0. Remember that? I mean, we paid 25 billion so far for it.
Still stuck in the middle of nowhere.
But it's like, that's got to be, purpose for some sort of useful purpose.
Yeah.
Now, I was digging around Sophie Scamp's Instagram page this week, and
that must have been so informative for you.
Jesus, these teals, I swear. They put out power bills could rise by $1,000 a year under coalition plan to boost gas until nuclear is ready, analysts say.
Is that 1,000 more than the 1,000 we've just had for the last 2 years? I mean, what's she drinking?
Oh, mate, some of these posts.
I mean, where did she even get those figures from? I mean,
they come from Climate 200.
Well, of course they do.
Well,
the Pravada Daily.
What? How about I play this clip of Miss Scamps, and this is from the horse's mouth. They say
today on his nuclear policy is short-termism at its worst and policy on the run. There's a whole lot of reasons why it's bad for Australians across the country. The first reason is cost. We know that nuclear energy is the most expensive form of energy. It's around 2 times more expensive than renewables, even after factoring in storage and transmission. The second problem is time. Nuclear won't be able to be brought online for another.
I have to stop it there. I have to stop it there. Now, you guys wouldn't have seen this, but she's talking about nuclear energy. She puts up images of coal plants with steam coming out of it.
That's happened.
Complete
so many
misinformation.
Yeah, that's happened so many times in the past.
All right, I had to stop. She's going to keep going. I'll keep going for a little bit.
Sorry, nothing new there.
I had to stop it because I mean this is just ridiculous.
15 to 20 years. This means that we will be delaying action on climate change. And we know the most important time for action on climate change is now, before 2030. Problem number...
Oh, you have to do it now because the whole world's going to end. If we don't act right in this decade, the seas are going to boil and the volcano is going to spew and we're all going to burn to death with global boiling. I mean, how ridiculous is it? And they're talking, we're going to have a 1.5 degree increase in temperature, and that's it's going to destroy everything. When you look in the past and how hot it was in the past, like, back in medieval times or even the 1800s, I mean, how is a 1.5 degree increase in temperature going to do anything?
Well, if it happens.
I mean,
it's like they've got no evidence. Every geologist worth his salt, like Ian Plimer, all the way back to sort of your undergraduate, would tell you that that's just completely unscientific and untrue.
Oh, they just drive me nuts.
Of course.
Is reliability. Because nuclear can't come online for another couple of decades, we'll have to rely on coal-fired power plants for the next 20 years. We get 50% of our energy at the moment from these coal power plants, but most of them, 90%, are due to be decommissioned by 2030. So we'll have to use taxpayer subsidies, taxpayer money,
which is what they're doing now with renewables. It's completely fueled by taxpayer subsidies. How they just gaslight the public with this garbage and nonsense, and people vote for them.
They did. The question is, will they again?
That's right.
Just talking to you, Mike.
Yeah, they did. But
as
we've got another year to go, and we've got a lot of information to come out about nuclear and cost.
The question is, will be around on these teal seats. Will they vote? Will they vote on cost of living, or will they vote on first world issues, climate change?
I'll tell you what they'll vote on. They'll vote on the fact that they've got rid of their lazy, incompetent and stupid Liberal members, and now they can vote for real again. People like you and I.
I'm not convinced of that, but we'll see what happens.
There only needs to be 5%, and that's it.
That's true, but it's a lot. It's you're talking 5,000, 7,000 people, and it's.
Well, let's.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but I'm just not convinced Teals.
Well,
in Teals seats,
our friend Sophie Scamps is going to be looking for a new employment or going back to her old employment. I can promise you that.
I'm going to bring up some.
And as for all these ambitions about getting Bradfield, forget it. It's not going to happen.
The redistribution puts them in the game, but
in their own minds.
Yeah. All right, let's get to the redistribution a little bit later. I'm going to bring up some polling that was done recently by the Institute of Public Affairs. Now, this says 4 in 5 Australians want affordable and reliable energy ahead of net zero. So this is from Daniel Wild of the IPA, and they've done some polling, which they polled 1,005 Australians on the 1st and 2nd of June this year. And respondents were asked the same questions an IPA poll asked them in 2022, so the last election. The first question was, what should be the main focus of the federal government's energy policy? 57% responded with affordability compared with 41% from 2022.
There you go.
So more people were concerned about the cost of electricity. 24% responded with reliability compared to 31% from 2022, and 19% responded with meeting the net zero emissions target by 2050 compared to 28% from 2022. So a lot of people on the right have been saying this, that the pendulum will swing. It appears.
It's a cost of living issue.
Again, these are just polls. You can never trust polls completely, but it's an indication.
My only issue with the IPA, they're not a native pollster. I'd rather listen to what a news poll would say, or a Redbridge, or your gov, your gov, and I'm not convinced that it'd be like the Australian Institute. We've done polling.
Well, they don't do the polling themselves though. They outsource it.
Well, does the IPA say who did the outsource?
Yes, it does. I can't pronounce his name. Dynata, Dynata.
Oh, okay, I've never heard of it, to be truthful.
Okay, well, there's another interesting one here. I'll bring this one up as well. So people were asked, how much would you personally be willing to pay each year for Australia to reduce its emissions to zero by 2050? 48% of people responded with nothing. They don't want to spend any extra money on energy.
Yep.
29% responded with $50 a year. 18% responded with $100 a year. 3% responded with $500 a year, and only 2% responded with more than $500 a year.
And those people from 500 to 1,000 live in teal seats. You'll find.
So that's about 5%.
Sure.
And
if they think it's a first world issue, they'll vote for teals. Okay.
This is the huge problem, and I've been trying to make this argument that because Sydney's so congested and we have so many electorates, and the Teals have been able to pick up so many seats. Let me finish this. So, just looking at, you've got Mackellar, Warringah, North Sydney, Wentworth. That's 4 in a very small area. When you have electorates out in the country like Parkes, which takes up a third of the state, I mean, it's a complete imbalance.
Yeah. Well, it's based on population, but I'm just saying that's where the issues are on the teal seats is. If they
take a step back, those people, the 5% that are between 500 and 1,000, right?
Yeah.
They're not teal voters; they're Greens voters,
right?
It's like they're out of the game already.
True.
They're not the people that have to be.
They're more teal voters.
No, they're Greens voters. They're rich, entitled elitists.
Yeah. I thought they'd be teal voters before Greens.
No, they're Greens voters because they don't care about money.
They've got plenty of money. Yeah, money's not an issue.
Don't care. Yeah. They've got secure employment. They've paid off their mortgages. They've probably put their kids through private schools already.
Yeah,
because they're hypocrites.
The big question is,
so they're Greens voters. They're not interesting. No. They're not part of the game.
What happens in Western Sydney seats, or maybe suburban seats of Victoria and Melbourne or
Sydney,
Brisbane, that are strong Labor seats? What are they? How are they going to interpret this announcement by Peter Dutton?
People out there, they're struggling with cost of living. They're the ones, but a lot of them are rusted on Labor people. It's hard. hard to see a lot of Liberal voters are free thinkers. I've said to his last podcast, they're free thinkers saying, I don't give a stuff. I'm going to vote for what I think.
But I feel like there's
a lot of working class people, especially a white working class person from the western suburbs who are in their 50s now who are rusted on Labor. They're very hard to change.
The polling suggests that the nuclear question is very popular.
Yeah.
So now Albanese has to come out and the Teals and Bowen and the Greens, they have to come out and attack Dutton on nuclear, which is popular. Will that be a detriment? Will that take bark off them? And as you said, Dutton's starting to look like a prime minister. Albanese is starting to look like a
student activist
or opposition leader.
Yeah, opposition leader.
No doubt about that. But can he? Is this a 2-election strategy?
Let me give you an inverted example. Rudd destroyed Brendan Nelson by refusing to give him any time or authority or even acknowledge him.
Well, Turnbull was in the background too. That did
that helped.
I don't think anyone took Nelson seriously though.
I did. I liked him. He's a very intelligent, very good man.
Yeah, but that's fine. I think everyone accepted he was intelligent, but they weren't
look
really
look at the way Rudd destroyed him. Rudd systematically destroyed him and undermined his position by refusing to even acknowledge him. So that's an example of how the public perception of an opposition leader and a prime minister can accelerate the events.
I want to go back to my.
Do you take my example?
Yeah. But I want to tie into this.
Okay.
I want to go back to my argument about the fight back policy and how Keating was so effective of being able to pick that apart, and John Hewson wasn't able to answer effectively and explain it effectively. Dutton might be able to explain his nuclear policy, but are all his members, coalition members, are they up to explaining it? Are they across?
Well, that's the problem. I saw Birmingham say,
all they have to do is go to cost of living.
Yeah.
They just say, look, our electricity grid is breaking down. It's too expensive. The renewables haven't worked.
It's cost $1.2 trillion. And all
that is a good question. Is this a energy policy or is this a cost of living policy?
Well, if the Libs had their way.
It's a cost of living policy because the nuclear power will not be in place for 10 years. This is an alternate plan.
Yeah.
I mean, it can't be
if it's a cost of living issue, people vote on the cost of living.
Yep.
If it's as I said, if it's a first world issue, they won't vote for the Liberal Party. They'll vote for Labor or back with the Teals.
I don't follow exactly.
Well, if they think that nuclear is not right, and they think that there's no short-term climate change agendas and stuff like that by abolishing 2030, people say, well, I'll vote for the Teal or I'll vote for the back, still vote for
But that isn't the question. The question is what we're doing working? Is an alternative?
Is an alternative. People listen to the alternative for long term.
So we've got 10 years before nuclear power gets here.
Yeah.
So what do we do in the meantime? And then the problem really gets focused on.
Yeah.
It's like, what do we do? Do we build, 6 or 7 gas peaking stations?
That's what the coalition will
They're going to have to do that anyway. Even if they stick with renewables, they're going to have to build the peaking plants.
Yeah, I agree.
The batteries are not going to work, and the snowy hydro 2 is just not going to happen.
No, all of that stuff's going to fall flat. And they'll probably have to build two or three coal-fired power stations as well.
Well, they'll just extend the lives of the ones that are there.
Yeah. They're all worn out. They can't do that.
Araring can still go for a while. Araring still can go. Mount Piper still can okay.
There are things that they haven't told us. The ones in Queensland are falling apart. They keep blowing up.
What's the one across the road from Billadell? What's the one in?
The one in Victoria has blown up twice in the last.
Because they've allowed them to. They haven't kept up the maintenance of it.
Exactly.
What's the one across the road from Liddell?
Bayswater.
Bayswater. That will go for a long time. That's
not scheduled to close until 2035 anyway.
Yeah. This is an example. This is from Finland. When they opened up their nuclear power station, electricity prices fell by 75%.
Yeah.
And the Teals come out and say, renewables are the cheapest form of power. Nuclear is the most expensive. I mean, they're just talking garbage. Well, look at the facts.
Who? Each state's got their own pricing system and all that sort of stuff. You know what the most expensive power per kilowatt or whatever they say? South Australia.
Yeah.
And that's got the most renewables in the country.
You brought up a good, well, you've triggered something in my mind about the states. Now the states have all banned nuclear energy. Is that going to be a stumbling block?
I think it will be.
But doesn't federal law supersede state law?
Unless it goes.
That's what it says in the Constitution.
Obviously there'll be a high court. Maybe the Commonwealth.
No. What'll happen is one by one.
I think it's pretty
clear. The Labor premiers will say, "No, we'll support this plan." Like Malinowska's already does.
He has, he has to. Because if the nuclear subs are going to be based in South Australia,
well, they're building all the fueling.
That's right. So
in Western Australia,
it comes back to again, where's the spent fuel rods going to be?
Yeah,
put it back in Narrowlinga,
and that might pay off his debt, his state debt.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, Victoria will probably do their own thing and say, we're not going to do it.
Yeah, well, they're almost running out of gas. I read something this morning. So, they've had a real bad cold snap the last couple of days and they're running short.
I've signed up to the crikey.
You've really been torturing yourself this week, haven't you?
You subscribe?
I'm starting to worry about your masochistic tendencies here, mate. It
just blows my mind. It really just blows my mind how they come up with this stuff. This is just
they make it up. That's the whole point. They make it up.
But this is what people are consuming. This is influencing people's votes.
Yeah, but
it says here, Thursday, June the 20th. Dear reader, if the coalition's track record on building big infrastructure projects is anything to go by, its nuclear thought bubble will go billions over budget, writes Bernard Kean, which, I mean, you look at the photo of this guy.
Well, he's the editor. He's the number 2.
And then it says, and any journalist treating the proposal with anything but skepticism should resign.
Well, that's self-righteous Bernard King and stuff like that.
That was Nick Fake.
He's done a lot of work. That I follow him. He does a lot of work. He's done a lot of work on the robo debt stuff. He did a lot of work on the robo, and he still wants blood. Yeah.
It just. It just. This is from June the 19th. It says, despite never expressing the slightest interest in nuclear while the coalition was in government, Peter Dutton has spent this morning spruiking his plan to build nuclear power stations if elected. Today, we dig into the issues of this ludicrously expensive fantasy.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, if it's so ludicrously expensive and it's a fantasy, well, let's remove the ban.
That's right. I think if they're
let's remove the ban.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. What's everyone so frightened about?
I think if the coalition wins government and they win the election, which I don't think they will, but they'll have to. And if he wins the election, the Labor will have to rubber stamp it, or the problem is it's part of their policy. I don't think they'll change. They won't budge.
My predictions are all
fair enough.
Are all getting much closer to manifesting.
Yeah. But no, it's open. Hey, it's a contest of ideas now. It's a contest of ideas, and there's a differential between both the parties on power on energy.
It's about money now. It's about money in people's pockets.
Yeah, cost of living.
What I really like is it's a long-term nation-building policy.
Yeah,
and even if it's not perfect, it fills me with a sense of excitement, and there's a lot of ambition behind it. And I like that. I've been calling for this for a long time. You got to take your hat off to Dutton. I don't like how he came out and supported the misinformation and disinformation legislation, but on this and on The Voice, he's been correct.
Yeah.
And I think this is something that the Liberal Party and the National Party can really get behind. Yeah. They can really sell it effectively as long as they're across the detail.
That's right.
And they could make an impact with this. And as you suggested, this might be not a strategy for this election, but maybe the one after.
The 2-election strategy, maybe.
Yeah.
So they've got to win seats. They've got to win seats on the Central Coast, up in the Hunter Valley, Western Melbourne, Western Sydney.
And this is great for
and eastern working class areas east of Perth.
This is great for those areas like the Hunter Valley that may be concerned about losing their jobs in coal plants, because those people can easily jump over to nuclear plants. I mean,
especially in the construction phase.
At the end of the day, it's still a turbine.
Yeah, that's right.
Spinning around there
was an article.
Magnet spinning around a turbine.
There was an article.
I'm getting confused now.
There was an article about what's happening in Muswellbrook, where people, because Muswellbrook from the two coal-fired power stations is about probably 20 or 30 kilometres away. But what they're saying, they're not getting the benefits of those coal plants because a lot of them live in Newcastle or Singleton or south of there. So their population growth is not growing at all. And they're saying because people can drive up the freeways and get to work and drive an hour back to Newcastle. So they're not getting the benefits of things.
Now, there's another element of this. We've been talking about the pushback from Labor and the Teals and the Greens and blah, blah, blah. But there's another...
No, the Greens have been very, very quiet the last couple of days. Bant put a statement out. That's fair enough. Barring that, you haven't heard a drop from them.
There's another aspect of this. Malcolm Roberts has come out this week and pushed back against Dutton's policy. I'll just play this clip.
And I'm at the front of Tarong Power Station in the South Burnett region. And it's been made famous by Peter Dutton's call to convert it into a nuclear power station. Now, that's one step away from the madness of Chris Bowen and Anthony Albanese wrecking the joint with solar and wind power at exorbitant price. But there's no energy infrastructure, no industry infrastructure for nuclear. The costs are unknown, but we do know nuclear will be far cheaper than wind and solar, but that's not difficult. So no projections, relying entirely on projections, no actual costs. We don't know what will come. We just know it'll be better than Anthony Albanese and Chris Bowen's solar and wind. But what's wrong? We've got this power station right on the mouth of a coal mine. Why don't we just build a second coal mine, a second coal-fired power station here, double the capacity, use the same coal, and generate clean, cheap, reliable, known cost? Because this Toronto power station has been operating for 40 years. We know the cost of it, and it's far cheaper than solar and wind and far cheaper than nuclear. I mean, this is bullshit.
Look, I love Malcolm Roberts, and he's thank God that he's in there. He's probably the best politician in the parliament in a lot of ways. But I think he really needs to check One Nation policy, because One Nation is supportive of nuclear energy. I know he's going into bat for coal, but One Nation can't support nuclear energy. And now Peter Dutton has come out and proposed nuclear energy. They can't now come around and say, "Oh no, we need to go to coal." You can't have two bites of the cherry.
Of course you can. You can say that coal-fired power is the cheapest. It still is. If you cost it like a business person, not like some mad scientist or some ideological activist, it actually stacks up.
But what did when Mark Latham was elected to the New South Wales Parliament, and Sam, you'll know this, what was the first private members bill that he tried to introduce?
It was on the coal plants and stuff like that.
No, it was to lift the ban on nuclear energy.
I forgot about that one. Yeah, that's true.
One Nation has been behind supporting nuclear energy for a long time. Same as the Sultana Libertarians. You guys have been pushing it as well. Yeah. There's no, and I think John Ruddock came out supporting Peter Dutton, and that's good. But One Nation can't just go, well, we've been supporting nuclear energy in the past. Now that Peter Dutton's proposed it, now we're against it. I think,
because you know what, this
wrong.
policy might take votes off One Nation and the Libertarians,
and that's what I'm sure they're afraid of.
What, the nuclear policy?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No. I think
because he can't win on 38%, 39%.
I think it might motivate a few more Labor voters to vote for the Greens. That's about it. And it's not going to have much influence.
You don't think it'll swing the needle a bit?
No.
Oh, fair enough. I thought it will. That's all. I thought it'd take votes off One Nation and the Family First Party, all the right wing, centre right parties. I just think they might lose a few votes.
I think if the election was now, but a year's time.
Yeah, but if he shows leadership and all that sort of stuff like that, it just might swing people across to him.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, I just want to before we move on to
because you got 5 or 6% of One Nation, okay, 1 or 2% of UAP, which I don't know if they're not going to run.
Say 7% net.
Then you got 2% Libertarians,
Mm-hmm.
2%, 1.5% Christian, Family First. You're talking 9%, 10%.
Yeah. But I don't think that nuclear.
And when you win votes, if you take votes off those parties and to the Liberals, well, you've got them. There's no preferences. You've got them.
This is the narrative that the media is putting forward, is that this is a vote changing issue. I don't think it is. I think the cost of living aspect of it is
true,
but not actually.
But it's showing leadership, and I think people might respect.
Oh,
his
definitely.
leadership.
But that'll take a while to embed. That will be progressive.
If he obviously he's well across the brief, he's well across his brief, and he shows he's on point, on message, and he's disciplined, which he is. He's a politician, been there for 20 years.
He's very steady.
My oath. He's an old
very steady.
Yeah.
He doesn't panic.
Yeah, that's right.
He doesn't lose it. He doesn't lose control.
Well, look what happened the first 12 months when he was in opposition. He let Albo have a free run. They all partied for 12 months. They put all their legislation through. He just tried to clean the party up. And then I start working on Albo and everybody else. Start on Peter, on Giles, started on him. That's experience.
See, this is another comparison. Dutton is rock steady, and Albo's looking more and more unsteady and hysterical and
he's
excitable and
he's a terrible campaign.
Erratic and
in 22, the only reason he won probably is because it was anti-ScoMo. Looking back, I got that wrong. And then the voice, he just didn't. He just put on a few, he just put on a few notes and say, well, we do a campaign on this, this, and that. Well, the people said, hold on.
Well, he thought all he had to do was make a couple of speeches.
That's right.
Everybody would understand that he was right and his cause was virtuous, and I think so we'll go.
What scared me was the night of the night of when he made the victory speech. I will fully embrace the Uluru statement. I think a lot of people say, really? He never said that for the last 4 weeks. And suddenly he said on election night, I believe in the Uluru statement. And I think a lot of people said, we voted for you. I voted for you. I didn't want that,
Okay, just to finish up.
People gave him the benefit of the doubt. And then after 12 months and suddenly we got to this situation, he said, mate, went from 60-40 his way to 40-60 the other way.
All right, to finish up on this whole nuclear debate and to finish up on Sophie Scamps's Instagram page, because I have to play this little piece of hypocrisy. She's you guys won't be able to see this, and the people listening through the audio won't be able.
I really like to share the pain.
I love to share the pain. She's got a little video here. She's on one of the beaches, and I don't know which beach it is, but I'm sure it's along the northern beaches somewhere. And she's written, if only we lived in a country with ample sunshine and wind to become a leading renewable energy superpower. And I'm going to play this because this is the most hypocritical, disgusting display I've seen. And the reason why I find this so disgusting, she's frolicking around, dancing along the beach. Right. The same beach, she won't put any wind farms there. Yeah, or wind projects. I'm not going to call them farms because they're not farms. No solar projects along the beachfront. No offshore wind farms in any of these northern beaches seats.
Poor old Wollongong has to cop it.
All the teals, exactly. They want to push it to other areas. The hypocrisy, and it's just absolutely disgusting how these teals can make these videos like this, frolicking around the beach, dancing and doing twirls and acting like a child. She's acting like a complete child in this video. And there's poor people out in rural areas that Daniel Wild from the IPA talked about. He did a tour out there, and people were breaking down, crying in their living rooms, telling them the stories that they're facing, having to deal with these renewable projects in their areas. We just saw a big protest down in the Illawarra this week opposing offshore wind farms. The northern beaches and the teal electorates don't have to deal with this stuff. She's dancing around on the beach like a twat, while people in these other communities are crying at their kitchen table, distraught and at their wits' end, trying to deal with these stupid projects.
Well, I'm surprised that you're surprised. These people are complete hypocrites. It's like It's like the greatest immorality was in Victorian times, and the greatest protestation to morality was in Victorian times. So these people are just complete hypocrites.
They just drive me nuts, and people celebrate them and think they're amazing and wonderful. But anyway, we've got another comment here from Jeffrey Robertson, and this will probably segue into the next discussion. Matt Kean's departure is the best news in a long time.
Yeah.
So Matt Kean, who was the former treasurer of New South Wales
and energy minister,
he's renounced his retirement from the state parliament. He's even done his valedictory speech already.
Has he already? I don't know. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Has he?
No, I think noticed.
Apparently, Malcolm Turnbull and Lucy Turnbull were in the audience watching, in the chamber watching.
Really?
He praised Gladys Berejiklian and was just saying about how wonderful she is. And look, a lot of people are going to be happy about this. As I said before, I think even a lot of Liberal people will be happy that he's now left the parliament. He's found a cushy position in the energy industry. Yeah. Surprise, surprise, that's
right.
What do you guys feel about the...
I think his name recognition was remarkable. I mean, if you're working on any sort of polling booth or anything like that, people would mention him by name.
Oh, mate, I did some work in Hornsby.
It's like a lot of he managed to turn a lot of votes from Liberal to something else.
What One Nation and Lib Dems get at the election? Was it 8 and 5? Was it
something?
Yeah, something like that.
12,
I remember getting a call from Mark Latham out of the blue, and he said, "I'm just up here in Hornsby, and so many people are coming up and telling me that they can't stand Matt Kean. They want to get rid of him, and they're former Liberal voters." He said, "We need to run a candidate up here. Do you know me?"
So. But it'd be interesting. People like who's going to be their replacement? Bloke who used to push women's issues. Like there's some other people, the member for Pittwater and the member for Davidson, factional members.
Didn't Kean have an affair with someone?
Alina Palena, the girl, the member for Miranda.
Yeah, Miranda. And it's like I'm just amazed at how there's never been any curiosity about it at all.
He's a fake Green, put in green laws, and they gave him the benefit. Even I saw David Shoebridge from the Greens said we didn't get on, buddy. We worked together on this renewable energy zones and stuff like that.
Yeah. So he basically decided where all the renewable energy zones went.
That's right. The back of Dubbo up in the New England.
So would it be fair to say that he's owed a lot of favours?
That's right. Yeah.
Well, speaking of Matt Kean and speaking of the crikey rag,
are you subscribing to him? You have to
I'm
pay?
getting their emails. This is what they've written. This was from
Bernard King. Bernard King. He.
This is from June 19, right? They're writing about Matt Kean. Matt Kean leaves, takes reforming politics with him. People complain that there is no more reforming politicians, but former New South Wales Liberal Treasurer Matt Kean was the real deal. Someone who knew how to use power and used it to deliver serious economic reform. And then he plunged the state into tremendous amounts of debt, but that's considered... that's
progress.
That's economic reform, according to Crikey.
Well, if that's economic reform, I'm glad we're running out of it. So,
he's certainly polarized people, hasn't he? And he probably says that's my job. My job was to not win friends. So my job was to implement what I thought was right. And at the stage he was premier. He was treasurer. And more importantly, he was the energy minister.
But every massive asshole in the world thinks that their job is to provoke other people and get a reaction.
That's what I do with you.
I love to know where he's going to end up. Is he going to end up in the renewal? Or is he going to end up at AGL or the established energy companies? Be interesting where he ends up.
when you've got a complete narcissist as a minister, when they take over the whole department or their whole area of responsibility, usually rises up in rebellion and outrage, and it's like it's always a good indicator, you know. And they're always standing there, you know, looking really calm and collected and saying, well, of course, this all just has to happen. You know?
Right. Now, I've put the link in the chat if anyone wants to call in, and maybe you can let us know what you think about Matt Kean.
If there's a by-election today, the safest state seat in New South Wales.
Northern Tablelands.
Northern Tablelands.
Do we have any idea who may replace Matt Kean in Hornsby?
Who cares?
I think
anyone will do.
It'd be a real test case. As we know, one person who's in the background there in the Liberal Party. Be interesting. Does he give it to it? Does it go to the left or does it go to the right?
Well, considering this week, so we've seen Dutton's announcement for nuclear. We've seen Matt Kean gone. Is this a good outcome for the Liberal Party?
It depends if you want balance. Obviously, some Liberals say it was a sorry, and we wish he was still around. And all.
This might be a better question. Does it change the perception of the Liberal Party to disaffected Liberal voters?
Yes.
It just depends who you're from. If you're from the right, you think, well, good riddance, he's gone. For people who are Teal voters who are disaffected Liberal voters who voted Teal, they'll say, well, confirm that the Liberal Party have gone too far to the right. There's no Turnbull now. There's no Kean.
I don't agree with that.
I'm just looking at different angles. I just
don't agree with that narrative. That's a Sydney Morning Herald narrative.
Yeah.
Is that they're all these soft, moderate Liberal voters. Yeah. And it's like I see this on the blogs all the time. It's like the left have this perception that there's a far right wing and there's a moderate Liberal.
Yeah.
And that if the Liberals want to win, they've got to expand the moderate Liberals. And it's Liberal such an illusion. It's not true.
Yeah.
The point is that people vote according to, you know, what they perceive is in their interests and the national interest. And it's got very little to do with some sort of polarized sort of sliding scale of
John Howard
political alignment.
John Howard did say the other week, he said that there's too much factional politics in the Liberal Party in New South Wales.
Of course.
And it's got to be sorted out.
Of course.
Well, they have had a good week. The third element of this is the New South Wales redistribution. The draft redistribution that has come out, and what we've seen is the electorate of North Sydney is planned to be abolished.
Correct.
And that means Kylea Tink is also gone.
Yep.
Which is fabulous.
I don't think there's the end of the story. I think she might.
Yeah, she'll probably pop up somewhere else. And
she's got no
I wouldn't surprise if she stands in the Senate just to try and take votes off the Liberal Party.
Oh, Jesus. Imagine her in the Senate.
I'm just saying.
I hope she does, because she'll damage all her fellow travellers.
Well,
I mean, the more you see of someone like that,
it won't hurt the Teals. I said, we'll just put a candidate in. If she gets a few votes, that's
I'm going to torture you some more, Richard. This is Kylea commenting.
It is very much open to my community to make their concerns heard with the AEC. And as the current member, a very proud current member of North Sydney, I will be making a submission to the AEC to argue that the seat of North Sydney is best placed to stay in play for our democracy. You know, the seat of North Sydney is responsible for pretty incredible things since.
So she rambles on.
Yeah, that's all she ever does. She rambles on. She never says anything of any consequence, let alone substance.
Can she be saved? Can the people of North Sydney rise up?
By who? Why?
The electrical.
They might change. She never had any value in the first place.
But they might change a few streets around and modify here and there. But they won't. They're not going to do a 360 and go back and stay and save North Sydney. Once they've made the decision, they're very ready. They'll backtrack. They might change a few streets or a few things around, but they won't.
And as we discussed last time, this is purely based on population. They discussed this with the Surveyor General. This is, I mean, a lot of people will try and spin it as a political move, influenced by the Liberal and the National parties to try and hurt the Teals. But at the end of the day, it's purely based on population, right?
And you know what the north side of Sydney have paid the penalty from losing a seat?
Yeah.
This might sound mean. It's there because the north side have too much NIMBY attitude. There's been not a lot of development on this side, on the North Shore of Sydney, from the Harbour Bridge to Palm Beach up to Hornsby.
Well, there is someone that is happy about it, and that's Sophie Scamps. So she's put out on her Instagram page. We're back to it. This, I promise, this is the last one. But she's put up this statement. We are excited to welcome DY, North Kelkel, Forestville, and Killarney Heights voters into the Mackellar electorate, and look forward to continuing the strong history of independent and genuine representation of these communities who closely share the values of Mackellar and the Northern Beaches. This proposal is a draft. There are still opportunities for 2 more rounds of submissions. But even though her,
she got something right.
Well,
there's still 2 more rounds of submissions. Except I think there might only be one round of submissions of objections, and then they'll make a final determination.
But I thought these teals were meant to be a team. I thought they were meant to be supporting each other. Shouldn't there be some condolences for her her current comrade, soon to be former comrade? She's getting knifed.
Yeah, but they're all blind and delusional. You keep forgetting that. She is, for sure. I mean, if she thinks that people in Forestville and the Lambie Heights are the same as in Avalon, she's got another thing coming.
Forestville is on the left-hand side of the freeway.
Yeah, it's just over there.
No, it's on the right. Oh, that's...
I can see Forestville and Killarney Heights.
So French is Forest.
You're obsessed by freeways. Do you go, like, I can imagine when he's got free time, he just pulls out his little folding chair and sits by the freeway and just watches. Goes, oh, I wonder what people on the other side there are like.
C4 on but Wakehurst Parkway still comes under Warringah still.
Wakehurst Parkway?
Yeah.
Warringah Road's the borderline.
But not on this
side. Down to DY.
But Killarney Heights comes under Mackellar now.
Yeah, Killarney Heights and Forestville. Yeah. But that's the softest part of Zali's electorate.
True. Well,
and the thing is that we have had peak teal. We have had peak teal. What's going to happen now is a rebound.
But teal's got a lot.
Is that like peak oil? Peak teal?
No, it's real. Peak oil was an illusion.
I've had peak teal. Richard, you've got all these cheat notes here.
Yeah.
So obviously the redistribution is just not about North Sydney. It changed the whole shape of the state. And we talked in the last episode about what the consequences were for Victoria and Western Australia. What are the consequences for New South Wales, particularly with the federal election coming up? And can you turn your phone on silent, please?
All right. So here we've got.
No one's going to be able to see that.
Here we've got the starting point, which is where we ended up at the.
And you realise a lot of people listen to this on audio.
Do they?
Yes.
The starting point is that Labor was 77 seats, Coalition was 58, and the crossbench was 16. So since the election, Labor have taken Aston from the Coalition. They've taken and Kylea and Monash have defected and become independents from the Coalition, and North Sydney's been abolished. So that's where we start. So then we've got a list here of all the ALP seats that will be lost. And there's a lot of them. There's 12. So they'll lose Wills to the Greens. They'll probably pick up Brisbane from the Greens, so that'll be a net even Steven. And I'm predicting the Coalition will win 4 seats from the crossbench: Ryan, Mackellar, Kooyong and Curtin. So
the list of ALP seats that you think they'll lose, apart from Wills, is Aston in Victoria, Chisholm in Victoria,
McEwen in Victoria.
Higgins is abolished.
Higgins is abolished. Tangney in Western Australia, Bullwinkle in Western Australia.
Well, they don't lose that because that's a new seat, right? So,
well,
you're predicting Coalition to win that.
Nationally a Labor seat, but they will lose it. Lyons in Tasmania, Boothby in South Australia, Blair in Queensland, Gilmore, Robertson and Patterson in New South Wales. So those are the 3 seats that they would lose tomorrow.
So they're going to go from 77. They'll lose 12, so they'll go to 65, which you've been predicting. You were saying 65, 66,
63, I think. So here we've then got a list of at-risk seats. Okay. Now Parramatta's now at risk because of the redistribution.
So that's Andrew Charlton.
Yeah, that's Andrew Charlton. Reid, I think, has always been at risk. And the third most at-risk seat is Eden Monero because it just got an injection of Goulburn. So
injection of Goulburn.
Yeah. And Macquarie also had an unfavourable redistribution.
That's right.
And the other one is Whitlam.
Yeah, Whitlam's interesting.
Whitlam
the Liberals feel like Whitlam's in play now, which has it's always been a heavy Labor seat.
I haven't read that one.
I think I've heard the whispers this week. Yeah, the Liberals are eyeing that one off.
Stephen Jones is a very, very stupid MP. Right,
I also heard that as well.
Right, he is
That's the consensus.
And he's now I think the assistant treasurer or the assistant industry minister. I can't remember. Assistant finance minister, something like that. Anyway, he's brain dead. But Whitlam lost about 25% of his vote in the redistribution. So this is now an 8.3% margin, which theoretically is too much. So the thing that's changed this is the offshore wind farm. That is a galvanizing issue.
Be interesting what happened there. Be interesting with that.
That will move traditional Labor voters in southern Wollongong from one side to the other.
If the people from Dapto, that southern region,
Yep.
Dapto,
Oak
I don't
Flats,
think
all that, that's that
Oak Flats,
Albion Park Rail.
Yeah.
You're talking about Labor heartland.
That's right.
But this is a vote-changing issue.
I think
provided that the Liberal Party put up a good candidate,
they've got to campaign well. They've got to have a good candidate. All true, but this is now up for grabs.
I do know of someone that is down in Whitlam that is a good candidate, that is part of the Liberal Party, that is eyeing that off, and hopefully the party gets behind him.
The only problem with Whitlam,
can I go on? Right.
I'll have a comment on what all these
Yeah.
have you've written.
So these are contestable, right? I don't think Zoe Daniel is safe in Gold.
Can you explain what the difference is between in play and contestable?
In play means that there is a significant risk. Okay. Contestable means that you can create a risk.
So even though you've got Whitlam at 8%, you're saying the offshore wind farm factor will reduce that.
That's such a vote changing issue that I think Whitlam's now in play.
Okay.
Right? I think it was a safe-ish Labor seat before they approved that wind farm. But it's a vote changing issue.
Okay.
And it's not so much the issue itself, it's what it signifies to the people that live there. No one's listening to us. No one cares about us. It's all these other messages that go along with it. It's like when you've got a customer and you take them for granted and you stop servicing them properly, you stop inquiring about what they want, what they need, what's important to them, where they're going. Eventually they go, right, I need to look for a new supplier. Someone that can give me what I need. We lost something, haven't we?
We've lost signal, have we?
Yeah. I don't know what's gone wrong there.
We back up?
No.
You finding this interesting?
Yes, very interesting. That's why it's so annoying.
We just got slammed in the middle of it.
There we go. Oh. Okay, we should be back. I don't know what happened there. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, keep going, Richard. This is good stuff.
All right. So Zoe Daniels got Goldstein. I don't think she's as safe as everyone else does.
I think the Liberal Party shouldn't have endorsed.
That's the best thing that happened to her.
Yeah,
I agree with you. The problem with endorsing someone that's lost a seat is that they've already lost the seat.
That's right. I think.
Yeah.
And
now,
maybe
in contrast, you look at Boothby and
she's contesting again.
Yeah, she didn't lose that seat. She retired.
Yeah.
You know, so she's not a spent force.
She's been working hard. She's been doing a lot of door knocking the last couple of months.
Well, she knows the people.
Yeah,
that's the whole point. So here are your contestable seats. Hunter shouldn't be taken for granted.
True.
Right? Shortland, that's a dark horse because Pat Conroy's an idiot. He's stubborn and he's conceited and arrogant and he's inflexible. He's been told since he was 16 in Young Labor that he's a very poor negotiator. And he's the Assistant Defence Minister. Like, if you're buying stuff on contract and you got someone like that, it's just wow. Anyway, Bruce.
Who's the sitting member, Bruce?
I've forgotten.
Is that under Giles?
No. It's he's a bigger.
Isn't that girl that's retiring after 20?
No, it's a guy. It's I've forgotten his name.
Julian Hill.
Julian Hill.
Yeah.
He's a bigger pain in the ass to Labor than he is to anyone else.
No, he's their head kicker. He's their head kicker in the Parliament.
No, he's their wild card. He's one of his friends described him as the biggest brat in Parliament, and he loves being a brat. He loves stirring. He loves being.
There's a couple of factors too. There's that retiring MP for Cardwell. That what's in it? Maria Van. What's it called?
Vermacchio. Yeah.
And there's a chance that the bloke Gorton, is it the O'Connor?
Yeah, he's retiring.
They say he hasn't officially done it yet, but
he's going.
They say he's
anyway. So let me finish this. So Bruce was Julian Hill, and the best thing that's going for Labor in Bruce is that Julian Hill is the most atypical Labor MP in the Parliament. You know, here's someone who is capable of crossing the floor. It's like no one would ever take it for granted that he wouldn't cross the floor. So he's very, very difficult for them to deal with. He doesn't fit, and he doesn't want to. Anyway, so then we've got the three seats that the coalition lost over the last 10 years in Western Australia, and they've all got margins between 8 and 10%. Now this is really interesting because everyone forgets how big the swing in Western Australia was. It was massive. It was like 12% across the state.
That's the McGowan factor.
Yeah. They won't have that again. So these seats that are theoretically quite safe may not be safe at all.
Don't you think a lot of this is just wishful thinking on your part?
Oh, definitely. I don't apologise for that. But what I'm saying is that we're on a journey at the moment. We've been going 2 years on this journey, and so far we can see where we've come from, where we are, and what I'm doing is projecting where we'll go to over the next year.
So what's your projection? So Labor will go to 65?
No, I think they'll go to under 65. I think they'll lose more than 15 seats.
And this is your double dissolution.
Yeah,
outcome.
Trigger.
Okay, what about if I throw this spanner in the mix?
Can I just say a few?
Okay, go, Sam.
Just looking at Goldstein, I'd still think they'll give Zoe the benefit of the doubt. I don't think Hunter's in play because it's too rust on the mind. That's a hard Labor area. The Cessnock, though Cessnock's more One Nation and that sort of thing. Once again, but Hunter gets consolidated because they get carry back. But
that's already taken into account.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay. Shortland, well, that's on the coastline. So it depends if, especially the southern side of it, where around Araring and stuff like that, where it is a cost of living issue down that way. In Western Australia, those seats in Western Australia, the economy's still going well over there. People are still going up to the Pilbara, working, flying back down, and they're happy. So I don't know if it's an anti-Labor Party at the moment.
Well, Albo's doing his best to make it that way. I mean, every time he speaks, he's losing votes.
Every time he speaks, he's losing votes.
My only query is Blair. If
I mean, I'd love to have a competitor like Albo in business.
If Blair,
he does everything wrong.
If Blair, if Newman is endorsed, Newman's got a personal vote, so it'd be hard for Labor to lose the seat. If Blair,
have you seen the state vote?
Yes, I know, but they can distinguish between the two. That's what I'm just trying to say. I just think Newman's got a personal vote in Blair, and I think he'll get him over the line. Okay, Gilmore, Robertson, that around Terrigal and stuff like that. Be interesting. If it's once again, is it a first world issue with climate change, or is it a cost of living? Actually, one of my best mates moved up to that area a couple of months ago, so he from there. Patterson, I know they lose Curry, so that's a bit of a loss for in Patterson. What else have you got there? What I've read from the Liberal Party is that there's 2 seats in Sydney that they think they're in play, which I find strange because I don't. Reid and Bennelong. Bennelong is much closer because they've got some of that redistribution from North Sydney.
So Reid is like Strathfield, Berwick, those areas.
Well, that's Chinese. A lot of Chinese. That's a lot of Chinese and renters. And I thought the Chinese are still a bit of anti-coalition from what happened 3 years ago. And they could be influenced from TikTok.
And what was the other one? Bennelong?
Yeah.
So that's Epping and...
Well, Epping goes to... They've lost Epping. Epping goes to Mitchell.
Okay.
But they get the lower half. They'll get Hunters Hill and that part, which is
Lane Cove.
Lane Cove.
Yeah.
Lane Cove's not as much.
Bennelong's gone for Labor.
They say he's a very good local campaigner.
No, he's not.
Incumbency makes a difference. Is a little bit there. Eden Monero, the only thing with Eden Monero is the Liberals get Goulburn, but Queanbeyan's still poor man's Labor public servants living in Goulburn and Queanbeyan and Juragongala, Gugong and what's that, Jurabombala? Those some of the newer states around.
Jurumba.
Yeah.
Oh, can't.
But Labor lose.
Jurabombra. Yeah.
Labor lose Yass, so that's poor man's public servants live in Yass or retirees.
Just remember that
down the coastline
there were 3 elections where it was line ball.
Just hold on. McBain is very, very popular down especially down in Eden. Okay,
I know that.
So they have to win big in Goulburn to neutralise.
The other thing is we're not done with this redistribution. There's going to be adjustments. And
there might be a mile square here, mile square there, but it's not going to make a huge difference, mate.
I disagree. In Eden Monero, they would lose a lot of coastal areas, which you've just said are strong for McBain.
Yeah, but how far south that goes, I don't think they'll go that far south.
They've got some problems.
All right, let me throw a spanner in the works because the Teals are coming. This article from the Australian, I'm pretty sure it was.
Let them.
Climate 200 identifies 9 target seats for the next election. Climate 200 has identified at least 9 seats it will target at the next election, all of which were won by the coalition in 2022. So they've identified Bradfield, which is Paul Fletcher's seat. So that could be a big Teal focus there. And Climate 200 says its goal was to support 30 campaigns at the next election, and more than $1 million has been raised in 2 months in early stage support in seats where community independents had come close to winning in 2022. In the 9 seats identified as targets by Climate 200, these seats include McPherson and Moncrief on the Gold Coast.
That's right.
As well as Fisher and Fairfax on the Sunshine Coast, so all Queensland electorates. The latter being held by opposition climate spokesman Ted O'Brien, who's supporting the nuclear plan. Climate 200 is also aiming to pick up the national held seat of Cowper in New South Wales, Bradfield in North Sydney, and 3 seats in Victoria, including the regional seat of Wanton, which is held by the opposition immigration spokesman Dan Tehan. And the other Victorian targets include the seat of Casey and Monash, held by Russell Broadbent. Well, he's leaving. He'll be an independent.
What they're doing there, because there's some new retiring members, is just trying to capitalise on that sort of stuff and try and get over the line that way.
Well, look, God forbid the Teals win any more seats. I know you're saying that they're on the nose and it won't happen, but with a lot of money behind them, with a big marketing
they're
engine
a single
behind
issue
them.
party. Yeah. And their issue is
but they're
no
walking
longer
marketing
front and
gimmicks. I mean, they'll find something to. They've got their polling, they've got their research, they've got their issues that they're going to try and manipulate people with.
Especially, I know for a fact a national person told me said they're worried about Cowper.
I can't imagine Cowper.
Well, remember Coffs Harbour and Port Macquarie, a lot of retirees who have got first world issues. Don't worry about the west of up in the mountains. Although Bellingen is green, so they'll vote Teal.
This is why I've been trawling through Crikey and these Teal Independent social media pages. I want to see what people are being exposed to. Why are they voting the ways that they are voting when you can clearly see Albanese up on the TV making a complete fool of himself? It's like Joe Biden in the United States. Why are people continuing to vote for this man who can't function like a president should function?
Hey, just quickly on the US election, they're some of the polls saying they're 50-50. Ignore that. You know why? Because it can be 50-50 Biden and Trump. These mean nothing because you've got to win those critical states.
Yeah.
The 7 or 8 states that always wins elections for him.
Yeah.
Now, the Rust Belts, Arizona, Florida, Atlanta. What's Atlanta? What's it? Georgia. All those, the 6 or 7 critical states. Don't worry about 65-40 to Biden in California or 79-21 in North Dakota. They don't count. It's the 6 or 7 Rust Belt seats. And always determine who's the president of the United States. They ignore, if Trump's 55-45, that still means nothing. Yeah. It's the swing states. They always say it's the swing states. I've been saying this thing's swing states for 45 years, and I'll be saying it for another 145 years.
The Teals can't win anymore.
I would give you an historical equivalence of the Teals trying to win the seats in Queensland is like the British trying to conquer Afghanistan. Let them try.
The only thing would be that could be a 2 election strategy. 2 elections.
They'll be as popular as a ham sandwich.
I just wish they'd go away, honestly. I mean, Climate 200 shouldn't be there in the background funding these people.
Well, when they fail to win seats, that's when their funding will dry up. They'll become yesterday's news. Remember that these are all trendies.
They're marketing gimmicks. I've always said that. Yeah, they're walking marketing gimmicks. They don't have 2 brain cells to string together. You saw Sophie Scamps twirling around on the beachfront like an
data is king, and they've got data.
Yeah, that's true. I think you're underestimating. I mean, it pains me to say this, but I think you're underestimating the Teals. Yeah, they're a big threat. They're a big danger. They went from 1 in 2019 with Zali to 7 in 2022, and you think you're going to go backwards?
Yeah, they're going to go backwards.
The key is
because we're not going to fight the election right now. We're going to fight it in May. In spite of my beard.
Who knows what's going to happen?
Who knows what's going to happen? But I'm trying
we
to
could
say,
be fighting the election in December, mate.
Another question, a liberal person told me the other week. How much the vote was anti-ScoMo?
Yep.
Or the exponential problem with the liberal vote with people of the baby boomers dying? What did I say? Exponential, was it?
Existential.
It sounds like you made up a word.
I stuffed that one up. But the question is, how many votes? For example, I read like the 19 election, the Liberal Party got 41.5% of the vote. And obviously in 22 it was 35.5, was it 36.5?
So that's the last issue. There's some polling that came out this week. What's the polling suggesting?
It's on average about Libs are on 37, 38. And that's not enough to win an election. That's why I think Dutton did this, to try and get some One Nation votes, libertarian, family first, all those centre-right parties. He's got to get to 40-42.
So you've been saying this the whole way along. For the coalition to make a difference at the election, they need a 4 in front of their primary vote.
If there's a 3, they're not worth 4 bob. They can't win any seats. Yeah.
Well, what's been the reaction with the Sultana Libertarians?
Well, I haven't actually had that many discussions about it. So
you're going to a meeting today, right? Okay.
Yeah. So,
I think they'll support it. I mean, Ruddock has come out.
With nuclear, there's no question about that. We're very anti-renewables. Very, very anti.
Although I've always defined it as libertarians. You got and probably won't like what I'm going to say. You got the Ruddock libertarians, and you got the Crib libertarians.
Okay. And that would be defined how?
Well, you know who the Crib libertarians, the proper libertarians,
the ideologically pure ones.
Yeah. The Ruddock's more from
as opposed to the ex-liberal.
Yeah.
The disaffected liberals.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Well, neither one of them like me because I don't fit into either camp.
But no, the point I'm trying to say is, where I think the Crib libertarians are basically we don't listen to anyone, we listen to ourselves, and that's it. And
that's it.
Okay, so before we finish up, is there any other issues you wish to discuss? Have you made your points effectively, Richard?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think the polling's been interesting.
Fascinating. The polling will be in the next couple of weeks.
What's a big issue that could derail Peter Dutton's nuclear ambitions?
I haven't thought.
Or is this something that if he can continue to explain this, he can get this?
I don't think he needs to explain it. I think he just needs to say renewables aren't working.
No, I think he needs to explain it because I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there about it.
Obviously, there's there'll be questions. They've probably got the answers to what they
see. The cost thing. Let's talk about that because in speaking to people in the nuclear industry or nuclear associations, I mean they're very honest, and that's probably their downfall. Is that they're very honest when it comes to cost. They just say, "Look, we don't know. We don't think it's going to be as much as what people say." And as obviously, as you start to build more and more plants, it gets cheaper as you go along. But they're not willing to come out and put a figure on it. Unlike the renewable industry, they'll come out with figures all the time. Look at Turnbull's Snowy Hydro. It was meant to be $2 billion. Now it's $20 billion. Or what? Who knows how big it will get?
Yeah, how many questions I've asked on Twitter? This question: can you give me a cost in dollar terms for the transition to net zero? I've asked that question 500 times in the last 12 months, 18 months, and I've had not one reply. You know what the most reply is? The cost of doing nothing is worse than doing something.
Yeah.
And that's just a standard. That's a Green's answer.
They project, and what I've noticed already is that the tactics that they've used effectively, now they're trying to invert them.
Yeah, back to
and attack Dutton
with their non-question. But eventually, obviously the Bowen will get asked this question. Okay, how much is it going to cost for nuclear energy? Then someone would say, well, what's the cost so far of your?
Well, I heard the other day the whole renewable sector, wind projects, solar projects, batteries, and Snowy Hydro, the transmission lines that no one ever talks about.
I think people are talking about that now.
$5 trillion.
Oh, I've heard 1.5 to 1.
That's just the transmission.
Put it this way, it's completely unaffordable.
Yeah.
Like if someone said, "This is what it's going to cost," no sensible person would say, "Oh yeah, sure."
Well,
buy it.
the Central West Arana Renewable Energy Zone, which is the only one of 5, it was 20,000 square kilometres of renewable projects, all crammed into Dubbo and Dunedin and Mudgee and Coolah and Wentworth. Was it Wentworth? Not Wentworth, Wellington,
yeah,
all those areas.
There's a lot of.
There's going to be over 1,000 wind turbines and 9 million solar panels.
Yeah.
I feel like Dr. Evil saying that 9 million solar panels.
Yeah.
I mean, and then they come out and say that nuclear is going to be too expensive. I And imagine the mining that has to go into building those solar panels.
Well, most of it comes from China.
Most of it comes from China.
And then the disposal costs.
And the disposal, they just bury it and let all those toxic chemicals seep into the water tables and everything like that. They never want to talk about that sort of stuff. They just say, well, the cost of doing nothing is a lot worse.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
glib, shallow, and stupid.
Yep.
There you go.
What else is there? Actually, I'm going to one nation meeting on Monday night up the coast and see what happens from there. But yeah, but coming back to, I think the main thing, this renewable stuff with nuclear energy. I think Dutton politically, this is pure numbers on my part, is to try and get votes off One Nation and Libertarian.
Yeah, well, this hurts One Nation, and
That's right.
And looking at Malcolm Roberts' response
and Dutton's leadership, One Nation people like leadership.
Yes, and Malcolm Roberts' response exposes to me that he's worried.
Do libertarians like that sort of leadership from Dutton?
Libertarians don't know what they like.
They like sultanas and almonds and different things.
A radical libertarian likes leadership.
Yeah,
but a crib libertarian doesn't, do they?
No one knows what who Crib is.
No, that's us three. That's a secret code.
No one knows who this man is.
I don't know. I'll have to ask.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for watching. I think we just covered a big raft of issues. A lot of these issues will evolve as we get to the next election, and
especially just quickly, it's interesting how the polling, as I said just before, interesting how
I don't think it's going to change the polling in the short term. I think this is a slow burner. I think as we get move along, it's going to change the polls probably closer.
I think
to
the debate and the narrative is what's going to change.
But the key too is leadership.
It's not the issue.
Leadership from Dutton saying, "This is what I stand for and what I believe."
He's shown that he's capable of committing to a nation-building project.
Yeah.
He's committed to sticking by a policy that could be attacked from all sides, from the extreme right with One Nation and the lefties with the Teals and Labor and Greens.
Yeah.
He's willing to paint his colours to the mast. And this might be only one of many other policies that he brings out, but he's showing leadership, he's showing conviction, he's showing a vision, and that's what we've been calling for a long time.
People say about the politics everyone's had a small target. There's a small target in Queensland at the moment because he knows he's in front, so he can't do anything wrong, where Dutton's showing something.
Yeah.
And be interesting if people respect that or not.
Yeah.
And in an election cycle where I still think Australians will give benefit of the doubt to Albo, that's my opinion.
You've at least got to respect it. You might.
That's
say.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. He thinks, well, we've got to differentiate between Labor and everyone else. So this is what we stand for. And if it doesn't win, they'll keep going with it. And say that
I don't think he's going to stop with just nuclear.
I don't think he's going to stop with that either. No, I think there's.
Is there tax reform? Because I've read some stuff the last couple of months where he said they've got this nuclear policy that's all been ready to go, and surely he didn't put the costing out, but it could be drip fed for the next couple of months.
Well, he's going to have
up till Christmas.
He's going to have to do something about superannuation and allowing early access for housing.
Whatever the policies are, but maybe.
Yeah.
While I've read a few people saying that the policies the party's done a lot of work, and the ministers and the shadow ministers done a lot of work in the background. The last couple of years, we might be quiet, but they've obviously been in the background trying to work.
Well, this election, the next election is going to be.
The fact is that they've had 100 policies costed by the relevant treasury.
Yeah.
So they've got 100 policies.
Maybe they've put the work in, then maybe they'll release it fairly shortly.
The next election will be fought on cost of living and housing affordability, in my opinion. This nuclear issue does feed into cost of living.
The big narrative now is interest rates going to go up or not?
Oh, it looks like they're going to go up.
I think they're going to go up. That Warren Hogan, we haven't. We must keep going. What did the Reserve Bank governor say the other day? We never considered cutting rates. We considered putting them up.
Yep. She said we made no consideration
of cutting, which is about and I reckon deep down, I think the bureaucrats within the Reserve Bank wanted to go up. I think the political people said, no, we're not putting them up.
Yeah, I agree.
There's more pain coming. There's no doubt.
If CPI goes up, it's got to go up.
Yeah, watch the poll.
And none of this is going to change while governments keep spending money. That's the reason why we've got this inflation.
Well,
It's not because
we're
of
going to get tax cuts, subsidies. We're going to get subsidies from the power stuff, so that's going to fuel more inflation, more spending.
Yep.
Okay.
It's a two-speed economy. If you haven't got a loan, if you're a baby boomer, and you're debt free, life's swinging at the moment. You can still go on your holidays, still go to the restaurants,
but you're still feeling cost of living though
to a point. But if it's not, it's still a Teal issue.
But it's not weighing in on you hard.
Yeah, that's right. But if you're 20 miles the other way, and you got your half out, and you got a loan, and you borrowed at 1%, now it's 4.5%, 6%, and there's another dinger coming through. Well, that people say, what's going on here? We've got our asses to our pants, you know. So that is another factor.
Well,
and it comes to your pocket. You've always vote with your pocket.
And this is a huge issue that we haven't even discussed today: the immigration and the impact of immigration on rental properties, and people trying to find a rental property.
Not just in Sydney, you go anywhere. I've read some stuff along up the coast, anywhere, even in country towns. Rents. I've read something in a place that I spoke to a mate back at Gunnedah the other day. He said you can't barely get something in to rent a place in Gunnedah.
Yeah,
because they're looking for miners and people working on the land.
Yeah,
they've just planted their winter crops in, so they get what a lot of farmers out that way. They get subcontractors to do all the planting and all the machinery. It's all subcontracted now. It's not on. So people got to go into town, might work on a property. They might have 3 properties to sow over a 3-week period. Where are they going to stay in their tractors? So they got to stay in accommodation. And it's tight as anything.
Look, it's going to be a big election. There's a lot of big issues. There's a lot to discuss. We could talk for hours about it, but we better finish up. Thank you everyone for watching. Please
thanks for putting up with us.
Yeah, and give us some feedback in the comments. Let us know how you're feeling about these issues, how you're traveling with cost of living or housing affordability. What do you think of Dutton's nuclear policy? Let us know. How do you think about the Teals and how they operate and how they deal with themselves? I mean, all these are very interesting issues, and let us know what you think about Matt Kean as well. It'll be great to know how people, will you miss him? Will anyone miss him? Anyway, that's a big question. All right, well, we better finish up. As always, we much appreciate everyone watching this and spreading the word. Please spread it out as best you can, and we'll see you all next time. Bye.